You shower most mornings without thinking twice about it, wash your hands throughout the day, and reach for deodorant almost automatically. Take that routine away completely for your entire life, and one question becomes impossible to avoid. Did your ancestors walk around smelling absolutely terrible? The honest answer is more complicated than a simple yes, and it starts with something you would never expect. The nose itself was different. In 2023, researchers Claire Demarche at CNRS Paris Saclay University in France and Hiroaki Matsunami at Duke University published a study that reconstructed something no one had ever directly tested before: the actual smell receptors of Neanderthals and Denisovans. Using ancient DNA collected in databases built partly from the work of Nobel Prize-winning geneticist Svante Pääbo, the team identified the specific genes responsible for smell in these extinct human relatives. Then, using a technique developed in the lab, they grew those exact receptors in petri dishes and tested how strongly each one reacted to a range of real odors. The results were genuinely strange. Neanderthal smell receptors turned out to be less sensitive to certain scents modern humans find deeply unpleasant, including the sharp smell of sweat and urine. In other words, the same body odor that would make you take a step back today may simply not have registered as strongly or as unpleasant to a Neanderthal standing right next to you. Meanwhile, Denisovans, a separate human relative known mostly from a handful of fossils in Siberia, showed unusually strong sensitivity to the smell of honey, a detail that lines up with a diet built around foraging in dense forest and steppe environments, where sniffing out a beehive could mean a serious calorie payoff. The method itself was almost as remarkable as the result. Scientists cannot resurrect an extinct species to test its senses directly, so Demarche and Matsunami built the receptors from scratch instead, reading the genetic code preserved in ancient bone and using it as a blueprint to grow working copies of Neanderthal and Denisovan smell proteins inside modern lab cells. Each receptor was then exposed to dozens of different scent compounds one at a time, while researchers measured exactly how strongly it responded. It was, in a very real sense, giving a species extinct for tens of thousands of years a chance to smell the world again, one carefully measured molecule at a time. Think about what that actually means. The question was never simply whether ancient humans smelled bad by accident. Different human species may have experienced smell itself differently, walking through the exact same environment while perceiving completely different worlds through their noses. A shared campsite could have smelled entirely ordinary to one species and genuinely overwhelming to another, standing on the exact same patch of ground. Now, for the part of the story that has nothing to do with the nose and everything to do with the body producing the smell in the first place, humans are unusually sweaty animals, carrying millions more sweat glands across their skin than any other primate alive today. A difference significant enough that researchers studying primate physiology have called it one of the most distinctive traits separating humans from every other great ape. That trait evolved for a very specific reason: to release heat efficiently enough that early humans could chase prey across open, blazing landscapes for hours at a time, long after four-legged predators had overheated and given up the chase. That same efficient cooling system, however, comes with an unavoidable side effect. Sweat itself is nearly odorless. It is the bacteria living on human skin, breaking that sweat down, that produces the sharp smell you associate with body odor. The same biological upgrade that let your ancestors outlast a gazelle under the African sun also guaranteed that a hardworking hunter-gatherer would smell strongly by the end of the day. Now picture the scene directly. A small band of early humans returns to camp after a long hunt, exhausted, covered in dust and dried sweat. Having pushed their bodies for hours under direct sun, there is no stream nearby today, no time to wash before the sun goes down. The smell clinging to their skin is exactly what evolution built into the system, the price paid for an endurance advantage that let them outrun almost any other animal on the savannah. Nobody flinches, nobody comments. In a group where everyone smells roughly the same, from roughly the same relentless physical effort, the smell is not embarrassing. It is simply the smell of having worked hard enough to survive. But evidence shows ancient humans were not simply indifferent to their own scent either. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers led by archaeologist Christopher Henshilwood uncovered evidence that early Homo sapiens were processing red ochre, a naturally occurring iron-rich pigment, as far back as 100,000 years ago. Ochre served multiple purposes, some symbolic, some deeply practical. Applied to the skin, it acted as a natural sunscreen and, according to several researchers studying its properties, may have helped repel biting insects, the same insects that would otherwise leave skin irritated, infected, and considerably worse smelling than sweat alone. This was not vanity, it was functional grooming using the materials available, applied with clear intention across tens of thousands of years and multiple archaeological sites. The workshop uncovered at Blombos Cave went further than a single smear of pigment. Researchers found an entire toolkit, abalone shells used as mixing containers, grinding stones for breaking ochre down into fine powder, and bone tools likely used to stir the resulting paste, all preserved together in a single layer of sediment. That level of preparation points toward a repeated, deliberate process rather than a one-time accident, a recipe passed down and followed again and again, long before anyone could write a single instruction down. Here is the twist that changes how you should think about all of this. Not everyone alive today even produces strong body odor in the first place. And the reason comes down to a single gene. A variant of the gene ABCC11 controls the type of secretion released by a specific kind of sweat gland concentrated in the armpits, the exact gland responsible for most of what people call body odor. Individuals carrying one version of this gene produce a thinner, less odorous secretion. That particular variant is extremely common across East Asian populations, while a different version, associated with stronger odor, remains dominant across most of the rest of the world. Whether ancient humans smelled strong or mild was never a single universal story. It ran through population history along an unmistakable genetic line, exactly the kind of trait natural selection can spread or hold back within a group over tens of thousands of years, independent of hygiene, culture, or effort. That same gene variant happens to control something else entirely: the texture of earwax, dry and flaky in people who carry the low odor version, wet and sticky in people who carry the other. Two traits that seem completely unrelated on the surface, how strongly your skin smells and what your earwax looks like, turn out to be controlled by the exact same tiny stretch of DNA, a strange reminder of how tangled and unpredictable human genetics can be once you start pulling on a single thread. So the picture that emerges is not a simple story of dirty ancestors and clean modern humans. It is a layered biological puzzle involving a nose that may not have flagged sweat as unpleasant in every human species, a cooling system that traded relentless endurance for a strong scent, deliberate use of ochre for protection that happened to reduce insect-related odor, and a specific gene that quietly decided how strong that final scent would even be, long before soap or water ever entered the picture. Now think about the choices woven into your own daily routine: the shower, the deodorant, the specific scented products you reach for without a second thought. Every one of those choices is managing a biological system your ancestors inherited for entirely different reasons: endurance, protection, survival, not decoration. You are not fighting against some primitive flaw in the human body. You are managing the exact same evolutionary trade-off that let a small group of hunters outlast an animal built for raw speed under a punishing sun tens of thousands of years before anyone had ever heard the words body wash. If you enjoyed learning how ancient humans really lived, hit subscribe. Stick Age brings you a new story from deep human history every week.